Mary Tracy Morrison was, quote, the ringleader of a makeshift child fight club.
Police say that Ashley Long died at the hands of a random gunman in downtown Dallas.
A Tyler mother faces charges after bringing alcohol-infused Jello shots to a fifth-grade Christmas party.
Florida woman convicted of killing her newborn baby has been sentenced to up to 60 years in prison.
Police say a woman stabbed by her ex had filed a restraining order against him.
Joy Nath put an air tag on her car.
Hey True Crime Besties, welcome back to an all-new episode of Seriously. Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Seriously with me, Annie Elise, your true crime bestie and your host of this podcast. Now, today's episode is a little bit different than the ones we normally talk about, or not that we normally talk about, than you're normally seeing, because right now next to me, you can tell if we are watching the YouTube version of this, I'm streaming the Karen Read trial. They're quickly on lunch right now, so I took a quick break to come over here, record this for you, but I've got the live chat going. I actually have people watching the behind the scenes of me recording this episode, so it's a little bit different of a dynamic here. Okay, so let's start with today. We are going over headline highlights, which obviously there is a lot happening this week in true crime. Not only, of course, the Karen Read trial, but also a lot of new cases that are breaking. And a lot of these are actually all of them are deeply disturbing and unsettling. Before we get into them though, I did want to give you guys a quick reminder. We did launch spring merch this week. So it is live right now. Some of the items have already sold out. I'm sorry. But we do have a few left. They're almost gone. So if you're interested in getting your spring merch, you can go to annieelise.com, grab some goodies. As always, we give Patreon first access a day early, so another reason to be a Patreon member so that you can shop before it's sold out. But we have a lot of fun things over there if you want to go take a look. We usually design all of our merch directly from requests from you guys, so I'm really excited about this launch. But you can check that out, annieelise.com, and as always, a portion of our proceeds goes directly to the Child Rescue Coalition, which is an organization that we work very closely with and that is very near and dear to my heart. Now, let's jump into the cases we are talking about today. We've got a lot of wild ones. We have one where there is yet again chaos happening at a school, teachers inflicting that chaos, and it's very unsettling. It's like a makeshift fight club, but as I give you the details, it's gonna probably make you want to vomit and punch people at the same time. It's just atrocious. There's also a case where a little girl in Florida was found wandering around and she had blood stains on her face. This was shortly after her mother was murdered. We also are going to talk about a case that is breaking out in Dallas right now of a young woman who was brutally murdered, who should have never even been in the area in which this happened, and we're going to talk about some more. So I'm going to stop teeing it up and let's just get right into it. And I want to kick it off with that case I just mentioned about teachers who were running a makeshift fight club at school, because as if that's not grotesque enough, the school director was in on it. It is appalling, and it's like my worst freaking nightmare as a parent. So 4 teachers and parents in Arkansas were arrested for allegedly running a makeshift child fight club. And get a load of this. The ringleader, as mentioned, was the school's director. Now, in a very heartbreaking detail, as if this wasn't already heartbreaking at the foot of it, right? But it happened at a school called the Delta Institute for the Developing Brain and the Engaged Mind, which this school has a program that is meant to help kids with autism. And I'm going to get into the details shortly here, but let me start with this. The 4 people who were arrested were Mary Morrison, Michael Bean, Kristen Bell, and Catherine Lipscomb. Mary is the owner and the school director, and Catherine is a teacher there. Michael and Kristen are both parents of children who attend that school. Now, this whole situation came to light when a video of one of these fights surfaced online, which, first of all, who would be having these fights to begin with? Who would then take it a step further and video them? And then who would take it a step even beyond that and publish them online? Clearly somebody who is like deranged, right? So after this video was leaked, a prosecutor filed charges against the 4 of these adults, and they all turned themselves into the police willingly. But I still can just not believe that teachers and parents were literally encouraging these children to fight each other. And they were 5th grade students, okay? Now, the video is about 30 minutes long, and in the video, one of these teachers can even be heard telling a kid to, quote, hit that other kid right in the private area, specifically a boy, just egging them on and trying to encourage this behavior. And they just sat around, watched it, and videoed it. So all 4 of them were booked into jail on April 21st, and Catherine, the teacher, her bail was set at $100,000. Michael and Kristen, the parents, theirs was set at $10,000. And Mary, the ringleader, the head honcho, her bail was set at $250,000. The judge also issued a no-contact order for her, meaning that she cannot interact with any schools or any students, which, thank goodness, right? So all 4 of them posted their bond, and they were released shortly after they were arrested. They're set to appear again in court on May 22nd. But what I wanted to talk about with this case is because at the surface, obviously it's disgusting and sickening, making young children fight each other, encourage them to fight each other, some of whom may have autism, and you're just preying on them as like some disgusting predator. But it makes you wonder how many of these incidents are happening out there that are not being videoed, that are not then being publicized. It's just very scary to think about and extremely, extremely sick. Now, we're going to stay on the topic of schools for a moment here, and also, coincidentally, 5th grade, but we're now moving over to Texas. And this case is so deranged because you know what comes to mind? The quote from Mean Girls, which I don't know if I'm dating myself or if everybody will get the reference, but you know when she's like, I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. That's kind of what this case is giving. Because all jokes aside, a Texas mom has now been arrested for bringing Jello shots to a group of 5th graders. Alcoholic Jello shots. I mean, talk about chaos, right? Now, this happened a little while ago, but it's sort of just now coming to light since she's been arrested. And I want to go through the details of this and get your opinion on whether this was intentional or whether or not this was done by accident, which she is claiming it to be. So 33-year-old Teresa Bernal is a mother at Jones Elementary School in Tyler, Texas, and her child's class was having a school Christmas party back on December 20th. So all of the parents brought things for their kids, for their classmates, you know, whether it's baked goods, candy, drinks, things to celebrate these class parties. So Teresa thought that it would be a good idea to bring Jello shots for the group. Why she thought Jello shots was appropriate for a group of 5th graders, I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to be funny, but that's what she decided to sign up for and bring. Personally, I usually go for fruit, like I'll sign up for the grapes, the strawberries. Every now and then, if I'm feeling a little bit wild, I'll sign up for cupcakes, but she went ahead and took it upon herself to bring Jello shots. So the teachers at the party were obviously a little bit skeptical about this, being like, okay, why would you bring Jello shots? It doesn't really feel appropriate, but if they're non-alcoholic, I get where maybe you're just trying to be hip or innovative and have the kids feel like they're participating. I don't know, still weird, obviously, right? And doesn't really track. But they assumed, okay, these are just going to be Jello. Surely there will be no alcohol in them, because what kind of parent would bring Jello shots that are alcoholic to a kid's child, classroom party? The teachers also all knew Teresa pretty well and said she was a very present mom. She attended school events often. She didn't really seem like this rando who would throw a wrench in everything. But Teresa supposedly bought these Jello shots from a business that she found on Facebook Marketplace, which I got to just stop right there and say, red flag number 1, right? Who is buying Jello shots off of Facebook Marketplace? No less Jello shots for a child's class party, right? But she did. So she buys these Jello shots off Facebook, and then she brings them to the party, puts it right there smack on a table with all of the other classroom stuff, the cookies, the muffins, the fruit, all of the things, and people start eating. They start grubbing out on all of this food. And 15 students reportedly ate these Jello shots. And right away, clearly something was wrong, because all of these kids started having stomach issues, headaches. One student even vomited twice, and another student passed out. I mean, one of these students even had 6 of these Jello shots by themselves. 6 Jello shots, a 5th grade student. They ended up feeling so dizzy that they couldn't even feel their own feet. I mean, drunk, obviously, right? Which, 5th grade, you're what, 11 years old? So these 11-year-olds are unknowingly getting drunk for the first time, not understanding why they don't feel good, why they're throwing up, why they can't feel their body parts. How scary would that be? Not only for them, but for the parents who are witnessing like the weird behavior start to kick in. It's just, again, it makes you wonder, how could somebody like this bring these to the school? So then, after seeing all of the kids kind of react strangely after they were consuming these, 2 of the teachers tried the Jello shots, and they immediately believed that the shots tasted like alcohol. So I can imagine that this party turned very chaotic very quickly. All 15 kids who ate the Jello shots ended up having to be sent to the nurse's office as well. Meanwhile, Teresa said she had absolutely no clue that these Jello shots contained alcohol. However, this Facebook business that sold Teresa these Jello shots said it says very explicitly in black and white on the listing that the Jello shots are prepared with vodka, more specifically with Smirnoff vodka. So unless you just didn't read the listing, which feels pretty reckless and careless in my opinion, I'm not really seeing how it wasn't super clear. The investigating officer even wrote, quote, "In my opinion, there is no way she could have missed the fact that the Jello shots she purchased and brought to her daughter's 5th grade Christmas party contained drinking alcohol." Which, same. I don't understand how you missed that. Again, though, I don't understand why you're buying something like that off Facebook to bring to your kid's classroom, but whatever, I'm not the judge and jury of it. Now, the investigation into this whole thing didn't start until January, when all of the students and all of the teachers returned from their winter break. So Teresa just ended up being arrested last Monday, and she was charged with injury to a child. Her bond was set at $75,000, which she did post same day of her arrest, and she was released. She hasn't released any public statement on the incident so far. She hasn't spoken out publicly in any way, so she is remaining quiet during this time. However, the school district did release a statement on the matter, and it reads, "At the time, a parent volunteer brought homemade Jello to the celebration, which was later found to contain alcohol. Unfortunately, some students consumed the Jello before the situation was discovered. Staff acted immediately to address the situation, informing parents and working with law enforcement. We take this matter very seriously, and we remain committed to the safety and the well-being of our students." They also said that she is not allowed to set foot on the school's campus, which I understand. I would also wonder what's happening with her child that's enrolled in the school. Surely they can't be suspended or expelled. It's not their fault. But then if she can't set foot on the campus, how does the child get picked up from school? How does that work? I mean, it's just a very messy situation. So we will see what happens and where this goes. Now, this next case is very harrowing, and I want to give a little bit of a warning. It is very difficult to hear because this is the case that takes us to Florida, and it involves a little girl who was found wandering around with blood on her face. So this takes us back to Saturday, April 24th, and some neighbors in Miami, Florida were very shocked to find this little 3-year-old girl wandering around a building's parking lot. Not only wandering by herself, but her face was covered in blood. Sadly, shortly after this little girl was found wandering around, her mother, 24-year-old Maria Camila Garcia Molina, was discovered in her car. And her mother had been stabbed to death, which that terrifies me because if you really break that down for a moment and think about it, this 3-year-old little girl was covered in her mother's blood. Her mother was found stabbed to death in the car, meaning that this little girl was in the car with her and somehow was left unharmed, escaped, then went to go get help. We don't know the details, and I'm going to get into more of this shortly, but terrifying, right? A terrifying moment. Now, this all started because, as I said before, the residents saw this little girl walking around the Twin Lakes apartment complex and had bloodstains on her face and her clothing. And this was around 4 p.m. One of the neighbors recognized this little girl, luckily, and then took her over to her grandmother, which the grandmother then flagged down a sheriff's deputy. So first, the police tried looking inside the apartment that they lived at, seeing if they could find her mother there, but she, of course, was not there. So then they went and searched the entire area, and that's when they found Maria in her car. Now, in a more unsettling detail, and kind of gives us a little more color as to what happened, there was blood visible on the passenger seat, and Maria's body was wrapped in blankets and then placed on the floor of the car. She had stab wounds to her neck, her torso, and her arms, and unfortunately, she was pronounced dead at the scene. All of the residents at the apartment complex Twin Lakes were absolutely shocked to see that Maria had been killed, and killed in such a brutal way, which here are some of the residents speaking out just so you can get a sense of what that moment was like.
All I know is that there was a dead girl on the side of my house, like not even 6 feet from my fence. And it's horrible. It's tragic.
It's a shame that this young girl has to go through that, and the family, and now a little girl is without a mom.
So now they were left wondering who did this. And really, the only plausible eyewitness was this 3-year-old little girl. So the police questioned the 3-year-old, asking her what happened. And in what I think is just a really heartbreaking statement, she said her mother had been hit in the head and now she was sleeping. She also said that the person who hurt her mother was somebody named Joy. Now, as soon as the daughter said this, family members told the police that the person that this little girl was referring to, this person Joy, was actually a 29-year-old man named Joy Chandra Nath. And surprise, surprise, like we see in so many of these cases, Joy was Maria's very toxic ex-boyfriend. Joy and Maria had reportedly been dating for about 5 months, and they broke up in November. However, after they broke up, Maria told the authorities that Joy was stalking her. She even received a temporary restraining order against him because she was really scared that this was going to get out of hand and that he would escalate to violence. And turns out she was exactly right. In her petition for the restraining order, she talked about several examples of stalking too. One of those being, one time she saw him hiding behind a trash can near her car. But when she saw him there, she quickly drove away. Another time, shortly after their breakup, Joy apparently came into Maria's job bringing chocolates and flowers, trying to woo her, trying to win her over. Later, he said to her, quote, "I left something on your car." And not long later, she discovered an Apple AirTag device that was attached to her vehicle. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with an Apple AirTag device, it's like a little electronic coin. It's about the size of a quarter, and it's basically a GPS tracker. You can put them in your backpack, in your purse, in your luggage if you don't want it to get lost, and he had attached one to her vehicle. Then, literally the day before her death, Joy allegedly followed Maria to a mall where she was spending time with her current boyfriend, just staking her out, watching all of her activities, seeing who she was with. He was there, stalking them, and reportedly even started a fight with her new boyfriend. Which this escalated really quickly, right? I mean, they only were dating for 5 months. So for him to become that dangerous, that unhinged and unbalanced, that's really scary. You don't know what somebody like that is capable of, right? She clearly was very scared, and that's why she got the TRO. So the following day, Joy drove back to Maria's apartment complex, and the police stopped his car to question him. And originally, Joy admitted to the police that, yeah, he did see Maria on the day of her death. But he said it's because he and Maria's 3-year-old daughter all went to breakfast. Then they went off their separate ways. He says after they broke apart and went on their separate ways, Maria's brother called Joy and told him that Maria was missing. That's the whole reason he was coming back to her apartment, to check on her, which, of course, sounds like right. Now, not only did this story not really compute, but Joy also had visible scratches on his arms, his face, and his neck. And we know that Maria had stab wounds to her chest, her torso, her arms, which, if there are ever stab wounds to somebody's arms, that's usually indicative of defensive wounds. So the fact that he too had scratches all over his face and neck and arms clearly shows that there was a struggle, right? That she was fighting back. So police then searched his car. And inside of it, they found Maria's purse and cell phone. So they went through the phone, looking at the digital footprint. And sure enough, it showed on the location that her phone was at her house, then it went to Joy's house, then it went back to the area where her body was found. So with that, there was absolutely no way that they could have gone their separate ways like Joy was telling the police. After all of that, Joy was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and as of right now, he remains behind bars with no bond because at his first arraignment on Monday, he was denied bail, which, thank goodness, keep this guy locked up and throw away the key, right? Just because he didn't physically harm the 3-year-old little girl, who's to say if he was out, he wouldn't, if she was the only eyewitness and if she named him by name. Certainly, he may try to silence her, right? Which my heart, speaking of her, just breaks for not only Maria, but her 3-year-old daughter, because this little girl not only has to grow up without a mother, but surely will have some sort of footprint left on her about the traumatic event of witnessing her mother's death and then leaving and having blood on her. And hopefully memories aren't so good from when you're 3 years old. I know some of them do leave impressions, even if you can't remember them. And it just, manifests in your body, but it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And Maria's mother, this little girl's grandmother, said that Maria was just so beautiful, so hardworking, and of course was taken from the world way too soon. So I just hope that Maria gets justice and her family and her loved ones find a way to move forward with some kind of peace. And I hope that we get more answers. I don't know if the reason the 3-year-old was left unharmed was because maybe this guy has a soul somewhere and didn't want to kill an innocent toddler. Who knows if she got out of the car and that's why she was then on foot wandering around. We don't know all of those details. I imagine that we'll learn them as things progress in this case, but it's just so senseless and so scary because, again, they only dated for 5 months and he became this unhinged. So it makes you wonder who you're really dating and sleeping next to at night, right? And I guess you can never be too cautious. Next, I want to talk to you about this case that is breaking in Dallas right now, and it has gone completely viral for quite a few reasons, but let me break it down for you. And it really does start as an example of somebody being in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, the consequences of it are just heartbreaking. So on April 5th, this beautiful 28-year-old woman named Ashley long blonde hair, realtor, had her whole life ahead of her, was shot and killed in Dallas. Her family is now forced to say their goodbyes and laying Ashley to rest, but the whole thing happened over something that was so senseless. So Ashley was a successful real estate agent in the Houston area. And on April 5th, she went to Dallas for a networking event. So that night after this networking event, Ashley went out to a bar in downtown Dallas with some friends, just drinking, having a fun night out, right? Then, just after 2 a.m., she left the bar with a man. The two of them were walking across the street, and the man that she was with kind of reached his arm out and he brushed his hand alongside the passenger side of a Mercedes car that was right there on, the side of the road. But then, out of nowhere, 34-year-old Kendrick Finch got out of this Mercedes and was holding a gun. The man that Ashley was with also pulled a gun out of Ashley's purse. I don't know if it was his gun or Ashley's gun, I'm not really sure, but he pulled the gun out of Ashley's purse. And I'm assuming that they had some sort of altercation or some words were exchanged. It's not really detailed how it escalated so quickly, but Kendrick, the guy who got out of the Mercedes that this other man had, brushed his hand against, started firing, shooting not only the man, but also shooting Ashley multiple times. The two of them were rushed to the hospital, and the man that she was with was able to pull through and survive. But unfortunately, Ashley was not able to make it. She passed away at the hospital. And police said that this entire incident was caught on security camera footage. Now, Ashley's family was, of course, shocked and devastated because of what had happened, but also because it happened far away from all of them. So they just felt powerless, like there was nothing that they could do.
Night out on the town and then being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was heartbreaking. Nothing I could do. I was so far away.
It was just like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. She would have been there 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes later, things would be different.
Now, authorities searched for the shooter for weeks, but they couldn't find him. Dallas police even put out a public statement on social media urging the public to come forward with any information that they had. Then, in a very interesting turn that we don't really see too often, the killer actually turned himself in. Kendrick turned himself into the police on April 18th, and he admitted that he was the shooter who exited that Mercedes vehicle that night. So he's now being held in Dallas County Jail with his bond set at $500,000. He faces multiple murder charges. Now, obviously, one thing that Ashley's family is really struggling with during this is that this was a completely random act of violence. She was 100% just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
One of the first words from the detective was, if she would have been in a place 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after, this would have never happened. It literally was a random act. And that's what's so sickening.
Ashley's family wants everybody to remember her as a kind, joyful, and very hardworking woman with very big dreams. And to remember her, her family left pictures of her all along Main Street where she was killed. And just listening to them talk about her is absolutely devastating.
I can't even text her because I text her every night. Good night, love you. And it's gone.
You've got Mother's Day. You've got Father's Day. We don't get to have that now. I love you and I miss you, baby girl. I miss our time together. I miss hearing your voice.
So I know that we all hope that Ashley is able to get justice and her family is able to find some closure from that. We will see what happens. What made this guy snap? Was he just pissed that somebody touched his car? Was there something else? Had he been in the bar earlier that night? It's going to be interesting to see if more information comes out, and I'm sure more will start to surface. Like I said, this case is going viral right now. Everybody's talking about it because people are trying to really make sense about it, even though it's one of those cases it's very difficult to make sense of. So we'll see what happens here. Now, this next case is from 2023. However, there has been a major update in the sentencing, and that's why I want to talk with you guys about it today. So Khloe Copeland Anderson is a teenager from Nebraska. She's 18 years old now, but she was 16 years old when this whole thing first went down. And basically what happened is that Khloe's parents called the police right after she gave birth, saying that Khloe gave birth to a baby that wasn't breathing. So when the police got there, Khloe's father said that he believed that the baby was born as a stillborn and that it was too late. The baby couldn't be saved. Khloe's mom, however, said that Khloe was the killer, that she had murdered her baby on purpose. The responding officers immediately tried to find this baby to perform first aid, but that is when they made a gruesome discovery. Through tears, her mother told the police that Khloe had, quote, hurt him, and then she pointed out marks on the baby where the baby had been stabbed. And this is going to get a little bit graphic, and remember, we are talking about a baby here, so I just want to give you a little bit of warning. The baby boy was found in Khloe's bedroom. He was wrapped inside a towel, and he had multiple stab wounds to his neck and on the left side of his chest. And even worse, his throat was completely slit. Both of the parents also told the officers that they witnessed Khloe take a knife from the kitchen earlier that day. And by the time the police were there, that knife was still missing. But then a little bit later, Khloe's father found this bloody knife apparently, and it had been hidden in the back of Khloe's closet. It's just so vile and haunting, and it looks like it was definitely her plan from the very beginning to hide this entire thing, to secretly kill the baby and then not say a word, although I don't understand how she thought that she was going to pass this off as the baby being a stillborn when there were visible stab wounds to the baby and a slit throat on this infant. Then, of course, finding the bloody knife in the closet. It's just so cold-hearted and so demonic. That's the only word I really know to use to describe it. So Khloe was originally being tried on first-degree murder charges, but her lawyers then decided to argue this, saying that she had been abused by her family members, and because of that, it caused a lot of psychological trauma. They also said that she suffered from multiple mental health conditions. Her lawyers also said that Khloe was 15 years old when she got pregnant, and the father was 19 years old, and that when a person who's 19 years old has sex with somebody who's 15 years old or younger, it is considered sexual in Nebraska. In addition to that, her lawyers argued that her parents or her parental figures had never stepped up to help take care of Khloe. Which, don't get me wrong, I get that. That feels like a really shitty hand to have been dealt and a rough situation, and I definitely don't condone a 19-year-old having sex with a 15-year-old. But sexual or not, that does not justify or excuse cold-blooded, premeditated, calculated murder of a child. Certainly not. Certainly not. Not of anybody, but like, no less your infant child, right? And I'm not saying, again, that she didn't have a rough childhood. I'm sure that she did. But I just don't think that there's any excuse for this. I mean, slitting a newborn baby's throat? Are you kidding me? And your own baby? It's like, it's so, again, demented and demonic. She clearly was very callous in doing all this because, mind you, her parents were right downstairs the entire time. She could have taken this baby downstairs to her parents, dropped the baby off at a fire station, done a million other things rather than take a raw kitchen knife and slit her baby's throat and stab it multiple times. That is a different kind of person. That is something completely evil, in my opinion. So that all went down. And then this past August of 2024, Khloe entered a deal with the prosecuting attorneys. She wouldn't plead guilty to first-degree murder, but she did agree to plead guilty to second-degree murder. And in exchange for this, the prosecution would drop the charges of child resulting in death and the use of a deadly weapon. In the state of Nebraska, second-degree murder carries a sentence of anywhere from 20 years to life in prison. And last Thursday, Khloe was sentenced to 35 to 60 years in prison, which I personally think that it should have been life in prison, but I get it. She was really young at the time this happened, so maybe they're trying to take that into account, that her frontal lobe wasn't fully formed or something like that. I don't really know, but it is disgusting and vile. And it's just such a very sad story because, again, she had multiple options, multiple things that she could have done, right? So aside from those new cases, we also still are in the full throes of the Karen Read retrial. I know a lot of you are interested in it, but some of you aren't. That's why I haven't been talking about the Karen Read trial specifically here on Headline Highlights, but we have been doing a recap every single week on Friday that's released right here on the podcast. And we do that because I know most of you don't have, 7 hours a day to watch trial footage. And so I wanted to do that so that you guys have a full recap going into the next week so that you're fully caught up. And so far this week, it has been pretty interesting. We have had cell phone experts testify. We have had information come to light that showed and proved that John's phone could have, in fact, entered the house of 34 Fairview. A lot of things that are conflicting with prior testimony. So I'm going to give you guys that full rundown on the recap tomorrow. Check back for it. It's free. It's just an extra bonus episode in the feed. And we also have our correspondent who is there live attending these court dates, boots on the ground, watching all of this unfold, who is giving us a firsthand account of what's going down during the week. And some of you may have listened to the recap already last week, and I just want to give you guys a shout out for those of you who were supportive of Elena, our correspondent's coverage. It was her very first time getting on the mic and giving any sort of actual professional correspondent type coverage in this way. So it's still a muscle that she's trying to exercise. I think she did a great job, but I know that there was some feedback about how many times she paused or said and little things like that I think translate maybe differently on audio versus if you were watching the video version of it. But again, I appreciate the supportive comments, and everything is going to improve with time. We got her a new mic this week too, so I appreciate your patience as we work out any technical issues and audio issues and all of that. So that recap will be here first thing tomorrow morning. Other than that, we also have our regular Friday bonus episodes that come out every Friday, where it is a exclusive mini deep dive, totally ad-free too, and you can get access to that either directly on Patreon, which is patreon.com/AnnieElise, or on Apple Podcasts on the Apple app. And don't forget merch, last call for merch, AnnieElise.com, and that is what I've got for you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Headline Highlights. I appreciate you guys being here. I'll be back with you with an all new mega deep dive this upcoming Monday, so check in for that. And other than that, just have a great weekend. Stay safe, be nice, don't kill people, be a good human, and that's all I got. All right, guys, thank you so much, and until the next one.